So first, I just want to thank, acknowledge everyone for coming out. You know, I want to obviously Governor Phil Murphy, who's here with us this morning, Lieutenant Governor Sheila Oliver. I really shouldn't have started this because there's a whole bunch of people here. State Senators Troy Singleton is here. John McKeon, Assemblyman, is here as well. I see Brittany Timberlake, Assemblywoman, over there as well. Just want to thank them, especially Senator Singleton, Senator Weinberg, Senator Ruiz, Assemblyman McKeon, Huddle, Assemblywoman Timberlake, the members of our SS delegation who sponsored and co-sponsored this bill, and as well as all the legislators who vote to pass it here today. Want to thank Ironbound Community Corporation, obviously, and all of the folks on the ground. My neighbor, Kim Gaddy, South Ward, and all the work that they've been doing to press us to get to this point, just on a grassroots level. I'm happy that Newark has put its cumulative impact ordinance in place already. We're here to do the states. The federal government under our Senator, Cory Booker, is pushing for the same direction. And so we're all together on the same page trying to make our community safe. Wayne Richardson, freeholder. I see the freeholders over there. I told you I should have started that. Thank you for coming out as well. So this is an incredible day for the state of New Jersey. About 310 municipalities, overburdened communities. With this historic legislation will show the rest of the country how to ensure that communities are protected. The counties of Essex and Union are in the 99th percentile for air quality concerns when compared to the rest of the country, but we know the pollution burden is not evenly distributed, and that we bear that burden in cities like Newark more than other municipalities in this area. The significance of this location is bill signing. This park is named after longtime Newark attorney and activist Raymond Brown Sr., who was a legendary figure in the civil rights community, in our community in his day. He defended such high-profile clients as Reuben Hurricane Carter, H. Rap Brown. He defended my father in 1968. Mr. Brown is a stalwart in our neighborhood, in our community, and it's just a pleasure to have an event such as this at this park, obviously. I'm not going to go into the full of the bill because we have enough speakers here to do that. I just want to invite and thank all of you for being a part of this and welcome you to the great city of Newark. Thank you for being here with us today. And I want to take this opportunity now to introduce our governor, who I think has been doing an outstanding job, particularly in this pandemic that has been, ripping through this country. New Jersey has an enviable position because of the work of this governor. And no matter what you have to say, you have to give him credit for the work that he has done to muscle us through this pandemic. So without further ado, I'd like to bring our governor up, Governor Phil Murphy.
Thanks, man. Appreciate that. Let's hear it one more time for Mayor Raz J. Baraka. Thank you. Thank you for everything you do, Mayor. Thanks for your gracious words, your partnership and friendship, and for your leadership of this great city. You have said it already, but given what we're here for, it is a particular honor to be in this park, which stands as a memorial to one of Newark's most legendary fighters for equality and justice, Raymond Brown Sr. The reclamation of this park shows what can be achieved when community benefit is put front and center. And yet, from here, we can look out into neighborhoods that have been hurt by past decisions which pushed the voices from within the community to the margins. The figurative landscape which allowed for such disparities will change in just a few moments when New Jersey becomes home to the strongest environmental justice measure in the entire United States of America. In addition to Mayor Baraka, who I am always honored to be with, I am further honored to have with us today two other true champions for environmental justice, Senator Cory Booker and Lieutenant Governor Sheila Oliver. And I must thank, in particular, all the legislators who were also champions in this fight alongside of us and so many other advocates and residents. And a particular shout out, and I want to start with Senator Troy Singleton, for whom this has been a long time and hard fought effort. Congratulations, Senator. And beside him, another guy who has been in the fight every step of the way, Assemblyman John McKeon. John, bless you. We literally would not be here today without them. I also want to recognize the other sponsors of this bill, some of whom are here, some of whom are not, but the legislators who are here, in particular, Assemblywoman Brittany Timberlake, Assemblyman Jim Kennedy, and Assemblywoman Nancy Pekin. To you three and your colleagues, congratulations for an extraordinary effort. I also want to thank Senate President Steve Sweeney and Speaker Craig Coughlin in absentia. I want to tip my cap to the Essex County leadership team. Joe is not here, but Brendan Gill and Wayne Richardson are here. We're almost there, guys, to be commissioners. The freeholder clock is ticking. I also want to thank Commissioner Catherine McCabe of our Department of Environmental Protection. Catherine, great to have you. And her deputy commissioner to her right, Olivia Glenn, who has been in this fight from the get-go. And how cool is it to have not just advocates throughout this park, but in particular, three to my left, Maria Lopez Nunez of the Ironbound Community Corporation, Kim Gaddy, the mayor's neighbor of Clean Water Action and my dear friend, and Melissa Miles of the New Jersey Environmental Justice Alliance, along with so many other advocates and activists who are here in many respects, in some cases not here. I also want to give a shout out, I haven't seen them, to two folks on my team, Senior Counsel Lisa Almeida and Senior Policy Advisor Jane Cohen. And to everyone, amen, and to everyone who has put so much work into getting this bill passed, I say thank you. Without your passion and commitment, we simply would not be here. And to our Jewish brothers and sisters, Shana Tova, and we wish you a blessed and peaceful Rosh Hashanah beginning tonight. So, John McKeon and I were having this conversation a few days ago. I think back to the day in June that we were together in Trenton. It happened to be Juneteenth, and I'm very proud, Sheila, that we got signed into law since then that Juneteenth will now be a state holiday for the rest of time. Hear, hear. So we came together on that day for the first time publicly to begin the push that has led to today. And as I think about that, I reiterate one of the things that I said that day. It may be tempting for some to overlook what we're doing here because this is, at its heart, and Catherine and Olivia know this better than anybody, a bureaucratic reform. But we all know differently. We know this is a monumental reform. We all know that too often it is the seemingly small and by definition bureaucratic actions of government which have the most outsized impacts on our communities and our residents. Mayor, I have to say it's actually a joy to hear trains and planes as we're having this conversation to get some sense that the country may be slowly but surely getting back on its feet. So in that, this law will bring with it a sea change in how government looks at its ultimate responsibilities to ensure the rights of its people to clean air and clean water, to a better quality of life, to inclusive economic opportunity, and to a better life, period. This law is a historic step on its own to ensure true community input and collaboration into decisions whose impact often lasts years, if not decades. But unless all the tumblers of government also fall in line, its promise cannot be fulfilled. And that's why Commissioner Catherine McCabe and Olivia and the DEP team today also are putting forward the necessary guidance so that we can continue to look inward at the machinery of government, at the policies and practices in place across departments, authorities, and agencies to ensure that not just the letter of the law is followed, but the spirit of environmental justice is writ large in all of our actions. Only by ensuring this all-inclusive process can we ultimately deliver on the promise of lived equality. Later today, I will, in fact, right after this event, I will return to Trenton to update our state on our ongoing efforts to combat the COVID-19 pandemic, which has ravaged our state and which has had an outsized impact on our Black and brown communities. And Mayor, I appreciate your gracious words toward Sheila and me. It means a lot. It is hard to not see, and I want to make this point very clearly, it's hard to not see the connection here. Residents in our environmental justice communities, who are predominantly people of color, have suffered from adverse health conditions at rates many times that of residents elsewhere, as the impacts of decades of prior health and economic disparities have been exacerbated. And we know that this virus has been particularly worse for those with underlying health conditions. So it is important to this moment that we send the message that no longer will economically disadvantaged areas of our state be dumping grounds, and no longer will the rights of residents to clean air and clean water be overlooked. We are collectively, folks, dispelling the myth that you can either have economic development or environmental justice, but not both. Starting today, we are restoring the balance. So I want to say one other, in closing, I want to return to one other thing I said when we were back together almost 3 months ago on Juneteenth. I said that we would all remain together until there was a bill on a desk and signing pens alongside of it, and there it sits. And in that, I have a new hope, that this is not an end, but just the start of our next act of partnership as we continue to work together to ensure this law lives up to our ultimate goal of a stronger, fairer, and more resilient state, not just for some, but for all of our residents and communities. And with that, as good a job as we may do within the four walls of New Jersey, we need fighters, champions, leaders who are standing for us on the national stage and fighting for every dime and every bit of what we need and resources back here in New Jersey. And there's nobody better than Newark's own. Please help me welcome U.S. Senator Cory Booker. I love you, buddy.
Love you too, man. Love you too. It is good to be home in Newark. And I just want to thank the mayor always for the incredible leadership he's providing. I won't go through all the names that have been mentioned already, but I do just want to say to the Lieutenant Governor, thank you. It is always, you inspire me with your leadership all the time. And to the other men that are on my right here, two longtime friends of mine, Assemblyman McKeon and Senator Singleton, I want to thank you both for your extraordinary leadership. I make a joke all the time that I got my BA at Stanford, but my PhD on the streets of Newark. And it is folk from this community, organizations like the Ironbound Community Corporation, friends of mine like Kim Gaddy, and so many other activists in the 90s that helped me understand that a lot of the issues that I was looking to fight for, economic justice, civil rights, and others, could not be achieved if we did not focus on environmental justice. It was a time in Newark that our children were being saddled with lead poisoning. The number one reason our children were missing school was because of air quality issues and respiratory concerns like asthma. It is a time that we knew that in our city we lived around 2 Superfund sites that were poisoning our water and robbing this community of its inherited wealth. This story of Newark is a story of corporations engaging in activities that were undermining the treasure of our communities, not just our environment, but the prospect to live a healthy life, to have what our country promises, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And so I am so excited that after decades of fighting, we see champions around us on the state level that have decided to make this state, the great state of New Jersey, the beacon of hope and example for the entire United States about what it means to stand up for communities that too often do not have folks that are willing to stand up for them. We now in New Jersey are setting a national example of what it means to be a champion for environmental justice, and I am grateful for that today, Governor. We have a lot of work to do. I've worked on environmental justice issues since New Jersey sent me to the Senate. I founded the Environmental Justice Caucus. I introduced the Environmental Justice Act on the federal level, which in so many ways is mirrored here. We know that in this country right now, the number one indicator of whether you live around a toxicity in your air and your water and even in your bloodstream is the color of your skin. We know that we live in a nation where certain communities have the compounded problems of environmental injustices, while other communities of wealth and connection escape that. This is so wrong. If we are to be the nation we say we are, this needs not to be an exceptional day. This needs to be the norm throughout our nation. I am going to do everything I can, as I've done with other federal legislation, to make sure state after state does what's necessary to make this law the law of all of America. We have work to do in this country where too many of our children and our elderly are suffering, being crippled, being killed by the fact that they do not have access to clean water, clean air, clean soil, and a clean country. I believe fundamentally that this is a beginning, and I'm so excited. Mayor Baraka knows this well. It was Ken Gibson who said wherever American cities are going, Newark will get there first. Well, clearly on environmental justice, wherever the United States of America is going, New Jersey is obviously going there first. Thank you very much.
Thanks, man. Love you, buddy. Wow, let's hear it one more time. Senator Cory Booker. And God rest the soul of the late, great Ken Gibson. So I mentioned them earlier. If I got this right, Mayor, we don't have one, not two, but we have three superstar activists who are going to come up and say a few words right now. So Maria Lopez Nunez, Kim Gaddy, and Melissa Miles, come on down.
Well, thank you, and good afternoon to everyone. And I must indeed start off with a statement that today is definitely the day that the Lord has made, and I am rejoicing in it, and I'm so glad that we're in the city of Newark, and we're talking about changing the environment and beginning to stop allowing our great cities to be sacrifice zones. As a parent of 3 children who are asthmatic, I know all too well the environmental degradation that I have suffered from as a 4th-generation Newarker, living in a South Ward all my life. My name is Kim Gaddy. I am the environmental justice organizer for Clean Water Action, and I stand here representing all of the other activists and members. When I come into this space, I bring all of the other activists who might not be here today, but their story is our story. Their community is our community. So this victory is for each and every one of us. I'm just so glad that the great leadership of our governor, Murphy, he had the political will to begin to change our situation. We have the great leadership in our legislative body with Senator Singleton and Assemblyman McKeon. And now we will have the regulatory body, New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection, under the leadership of Commissioner McCabe, to correct these environmental injustices that we have suffered from for 20 plus years. So I'm so very thankful. I don't know why I ever write notes because I never read them. But this is my story. I am just so thankful that each and every one of you are here. But I will be calling you because we now have to roll up our sleeves and make sure the regulations have the teeth that we need to allow us to breathe clean air throughout the state of New Jersey. God bless you.
Yeah, so well done. Bless you.
Yeah, thank you, Kim. You know, we do this together. I think that's always important to remember. For me, this bill took 12 years, right? This bill took 12 years. So I think I look around and I don't see the people who actually fought for this bill. You know, because when I think about my community, they fight for us. You know, we're always saying we're here fighting for them, but no, they fight for us. They keep us moving. I think about the kids at Hawkins Street School who, when they're trying to learn, they have planes going over their head and trucks rolling by. You know, I don't like hearing that train because we live on the other side of the tracks where we hear that all night. When they look out their window, they see the garbage incinerator Covanta. When they go to the river, they know they can't swim in it because it's the longest Superfund site in the country. I think of the women of Terrell Holmes who fought and died trying to preserve Terrell Holmes, Ms. Dorothy Brazel. You know, I think about how they're fighting for the right to preserve their housing. It's why we need the People's Bill. We need more. You know, we need more in our communities, and we need it to not take 12 years. So I'm celebrating this historic moment, but I'm also calling on all of us to be accountable. That in 12 years, we've had a new energy plant, a natural gas plant in our neighborhood, warehouses, and a lot of other toxic stuff that some folks here would never live around. You know, so 12 years is too long. That's generations who caught asthma, who might have died from COVID. So I just want to remind us that we need to work harder as leaders, that as activists, as organizers, as elected officials, we need to work harder and we need to lead with our heart and center the communities. We don't want to be canaries in the coal mine anymore, okay? We want you to listen to the people most directly impacted and lead the way, because it shouldn't be incremental. Bad things happen really fast. We need change very fast, because we don't want to just survive in our communities, we want to thrive.
Good morning. My name is Melissa Miles, and I'm the Executive Director of the New Jersey Environmental Justice Alliance. This is my son, Kilawan. Give me 1 minute, sweetheart. I became an organizer when my then one-year-old son, here. Okay. What do you want to say? Say good morning.
Hello, my name is Kilawan.
Thank you. All right. So I became an organizer when his older brother at 1 year old was diagnosed with asthma. At that time, we lived just a few blocks away from here on Tichenor Street on the other side of this highway, and across the street from an old plastic factory that is still spewing toxic fumes as I speak with you here today, and I know because I was in front of it an hour ago. My hope for this bill is that it will protect our most precious treasure, which is life. The lives of our community, the lives of our children, the lives of our elders, which are all most vulnerable to the air pollution that we deal with here in the Ironbound and other neighborhoods like this throughout the state. So as long as even one life is in jeopardy, our work is not done. I want to see us keep all of this momentum as we move into the next stage of the process. And I also want to see us keep the communities that are most impacted centered in that process. Thank you. You want to say one more thing? Go ahead. Thank you. Thank you.
Wait.
Thank you.
Thank you, Melissa. Great job, both of you. You're welcome to come up and take the show from here, sir, so you can... Let's hear it one more time for Kim, Maria, and Melissa. And I think you each reminded us of something I touched upon, and as did the mayor and senator. This is another step, but we're on a journey. We're not declaring victory. We're not in the end zone. This is a big step, a step unlike any step any other state in America has taken, and we should be grateful for that collectively. But this is a long road still to travel, and I promise you, on behalf of all of us, we will stay on that road with you. Amen. So with that, I get the great... Okay. I get the great honor every day of going to work with an extraordinary partner in government. You know her well. She is the singular, the one, the only. Please help me welcome Lieutenant Governor Sheila Oliver. Love you. Love that mask, by the way. I now see why Arturo came up.
Yes. Well, good morning, everyone. And protocol was established in the acknowledgement of all of our leaders across a lot of spectrums. But I heard someone the other day say, we're not the dignitaries. The people of this neighborhood are the dignitaries. And to Senator Booker and to Mayor Ras Baraka, Newark has been blessed with having two mayors who care about justice, justice at all levels. But environmental justice and the city of Newark has been an issue for more than 100 years. I always think about Robert Treat landing on the banks of the Passaic River. And you know, wherever there is a river, that's where you see commerce grow up and evolve. So just imagine from 300 plus years ago, 350, imagine the kinds of things that have been dumped into the Passaic River. When we look at this community, I think about some of the big companies that were here. I think about DuPont, a big employer here. I think about Conmar. They used to have the big major, and they were a zipper factory. You can believe that all of those companies did a lot of environmental pollution, and I'm not calling them out, I'm just telling you. Something that Maya Angelou wrote. She said, when you know better, you do better. These companies did not know better. There was a small company here that I knew that would take, remember the old Kodak cameras and you get a picture instantly? Well, there was a company that took that residue and they used a chemical process to extract silver out of that residue. And they would melt that silver down into silver bars. You know what they did with the residue? They came out of the back door of the company and they just dumped it in the ground. So those are the kinds of things we're talking about when we talk about environmental justice. And we've acknowledged everyone, but Governor Murphy, we did not acknowledge First Lady Tammy Murphy, who went to the State Board of Education and got a resolution approved that every student in the New Jersey school system will be taught about climate change. Because you cannot separate out environmental pollution from the changing of our planet. So I just want to thank everyone who had a hand in this. You know, I know that it's been a long time coming, but I would like to assure the residents of this area that it won't be 12 more years for you to see an improvement in the quality of your life. Because Governor Murphy and I are committed to stepping outside the box. We don't care if people get angry at us, because I meant to tell you, the Atlantic City PBA is mad at me. So you'll hear about it, all right? And just know that we're on your side, you know, we're with you, and our objective is to make everyone have a better quality of life. So thank you.
Sheila wanted me to tell you that based on her footwear, she's actually running to Trenton after we sign the bill. Thank you, Sheila. One more time, Lieutenant Governor Sheila Oliver. So the very first time we sat down, Troy Singleton spoke to me about environmental justice. That wasn't 12 years ago, but it's probably, Troy, at this point, 5 or 6 years ago. I said this earlier, without Troy and John McKeon, we would not be here today, literally. Please help me welcome a champion unlike any other for this cause and so many, Senator Troy Singleton.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Let me first begin by acknowledging our previous speaker, the Lieutenant Governor. When I came to the legislature in 2011 as an elected official, having worked in the legislature prior to that, our Lieutenant Governor was our speaker. She was the first speaker that I got to work under and learn from. And the lessons that she taught many of us then, I still lean on to this day. And every time I get to hear her speak, I'm reminded about so many of our private conversations about the obligation that we have as public servants and what that means. And a day like today is where it crystallizes in my mind that obligation and why it matters so much. March 6, 2008 is when the legislative history and this legislative journey began. But so many in this community and communities like this all across our nation know that the journey was longer than that. I referenced that date because that date, the sponsorship was my dear friend and colleague, Senator Ron Rice from this great city of Newark, and our Senate Majority Leader, Loretta Weinberg. And ever since that day, the fight has changed hands a couple times. Our Honorable Superior Court Justice Grace Spencer was a part of this fight along the way as well. But we get here today, and we reflect on everyone's involvement in putting us here. And when I look at our advocates here, embodied by these three powerful women, I'm reflected of why I actually do this job. I don't do this job for bill signings and newspaper articles and TV press and all that stuff. And honestly, I don't think anyone that I know here, and I know many here in this area or elected officials personally, none of us do this for that. We do it for moments like this when we can sit back and say, because someday there's going to be someone new with this pen. There's going to be someone new who represents the 7th Legislative District. But the history that we are making today, it's the kind of legacy stuff that we will look back on and say, you know what? Some people, and it's an old saying in the church, you always say you want to be people, folks want to be better for having you come their way. And honest to God, I know in my heart, folks are going to be proud of the work that's going to be done here today, because so many of the blood, sweat, and tears that have gone into this, we're going to change people's lives. We're going to change it for the better. And that's what public service is all about. That's why I do this job. That's why I'm committed to trying to be the best public servant I ever can be. I've had great role models in this fight and in this endeavor. And the governor has acknowledged so many of them sitting here. But I want to single out the two that started this fight because they aren't here. Senator Ron Rice and Senator Loretta Weinberg in the Senate on March 6, 2008, were the first people to introduce a bill on this topic. And ever since then, they have never let the conversation go. May not have had the success that we all wanted that is culminating here today, but they never let this topic go. So for the young people in this room, in this park, and the young at heart, when folks try and tell you that you cannot make a difference in public service, when folks say 12 years was too long, point to them to this day. Point to them and let them know, because we made a difference and we did it. So when they say your vote doesn't matter, when they say it doesn't worth getting involved, I'm too busy, because folks stayed involved for 12 years, we're here today. And I would encourage you, as was said, this fight does not end today. There is a myriad of issues that we all must champion and move forward on. My dear friend Brittany Timberlake has been fighting like the devil to make sure that people's housing is safe and secure, and that's going to happen because she's a fierce advocate for it. And I'm telling you, we can make this happen. We can make this happen. We can make days like this not just a one-off, but an everyday occurrence by continuing to fight and work together. Governor, it's always an honor and privilege to be with you. I'm going to take my seat, but I could not acknowledge and say I served with 119 other legislators. But I will tell you, if you're ever in a fight, and you're in a fight for economic or environmental justice, there's no one better to have in your corner than the gentleman who's going to speak after me, John McCain. He has been a tireless advocate for these issues and issues that we don't even talk about in public forums that better people. He's been a fighter for the environment long before I was a legislator. And I say that because he's older than me. But he's been a tireless champion. And I got to tell you, Governor, every conversation we had, it was John McCain who actually brought us all together to make sure we were here. So there's a lot of folks who want to give accolades and praise around. I will tell you, this bill was stopped. And these ladies will tell you, this bill was dead. John McCain talked to me and said, Troy, I'm going to figure out a way to get this done. And he did it. Because we were fighting like hell trying to figure out how we were going to do it. And he did his magic and weaved the magic sauce. And this is why we're here today. So there's a lot of praise going around. I would be remiss if I didn't praise one of my closest friends who fought so hard for this, Assemblyman McCain. So thank y'all all.
Thank you, sir. hear it one more time. Senator Troy Singleton. Let's also, in absentia, it's a very good point. You made many good points, Troy, but let's give Ron Rice and Loretta Weinberg a big shout out in absentia. And I finally found Jane Cohen and Lisa Almeida. I now realize where you are. I apologize for not being able to find you earlier. Thank you again for all your help. Troy said it. There's no better introduction of our next and final speaker. Last but certainly not least, a guy who's led on this and has led on so many other fights that we've had successfully, not just over our time, Sheila, with you and me, but for many, many years. As a mayor, as a legislator, as a champion, please help me welcome Assemblyman John McKeon. Not John Bon Jovi.
Yeah. Governor, thank you very much. I'm never at a loss for words, Troy, but after your beautiful words, that meant so much to me, especially because my wife and two of my daughters are here, so that couldn't have been better delivered. So thank you for that. It means a lot. You know, Governor and Lieutenant Governor, on Juneteenth, I mentioned thank you on my behalf and my family's behalf for everything that you are doing for our state. I know it's got even more difficult relative to people getting antsy, wanting to be out, wanting to get back to some semblance of normalcy. So this time I want the two of you to think about all of those lives that you saved, all of the families that you've saved just terrible grief and consternation, and they'll never know because of your decisions that they've been saved. So on behalf of them, thank you.
Thank you, John.
And just one more time, Brittany, you've been mentioned a number of times, and Nancy and James, you know, without the three of you, we would have never gotten this done. So Troy was very kind to give me some prompts for advocacy, but you three were amazing and deserve 100% of the credit, and thank you for that. I guess, you know, what is environmental justice? Or better yet, that's a misnomer. It's injustice, right? It's been 100 years in the making, as the Lieutenant Governor has said, but I guess it came into our country's lexicon in 1990 when Robert Bullock looked at the city of Houston, whose population was 25% African American, yet 100% of the landfills were in that neighborhood. So fast forward, as it related to how I had an epiphany about environmental justice, it occurred in 2005. And that was when, and Troy Singleton was a staff member and worked very closely on this, when we were looking at precious resources earmarked for the environment through the corporate business tax, and we were looking at retrofitting diesel buses, diesel school buses. And people said, look, school buses, they have to be retired every 10 years, so it'll only be another 10 years. Why spend the money there? And that was when I met Kim Geddes. And that was when she explained to me the disparate numbers of childhood asthma that were in cities like Newark and Camden and Trenton and Patterson, and what environmental justice really meant to people who were visited by that. So, Kim, I just want you to know that anything that I've been involved with the environment has always been looked to through the prism that you taught me for. So I'm always quite grateful for that. And our nation and state and city are grateful for you. You know, we talked about Houston, but let's bring this home here to our great state of New Jersey. A 2019 DEP study showed that African Americans are subjected to 56% more air pollution than their consumption is responsible for. In the Latino community, it's even more pronounced. They are subjected to 63% more air pollution than their consumption is related to. Now, if you happen to have the same pigment of the skin that I do, that number is 12%. Not 12% less, literally, or more, 12% less are Caucasians subjected to than their consumption is responsible for. That's wrong. It's not just. As it relates to the this great city, of Newark, and under the stewardship of Mayor Baraka, and I'm so proud of everything that you do, Raj. I talk, speak to people from other states, and they'll make a crack, and I always love to talk about the Ironbound. I talk about this 4 square miles that has the greatest of ethnic restaurants, these amazing houses that are also meticulously maintained within a few steps of a grand sports arena, let alone that jewel that's the New Jersey Pack. But yet, let's think about it. The Ironbound in that 4 square miles has 3 toxic waste sites, 2 power plants, and an incinerator. Now, if anybody wants to jump in the car with me as soon as this ceremony is over, I'll take you on about a 10-mile ride or 10-minute ride to other communities that are 4 square miles just up the road, and I guarantee you there's not as much as a septic system in any of those towns. That's wrong, and it's not just. So what does this bill really do when it comes to it? You know, if it's a sludge facility, if it's a salvage yard, if a whole array of things under Title V concerning those kind of licenses that produce air pollution, if they want to come to an already overburdened city, then there is going to be a process, and it's going to be transparent, and the advocates are going to be heard. And then when the DEP takes that into consideration, not that they may, they will not cite those facilities in overburdened communities. And even better, there's 236 of those licenses out there now. Now, they have to, under federal law, be renewed either at 5-year or 10-year increments. So when those renewals happen, the same process will take place, and the community will be heard. And then the DEP maybe won't boot them out, but what they will do is put conditions that are reasoned and will be effective in lessening the impact on facilities that are already in place. And I just note to the naysayers that this is going to be some kind of job killer, and we can argue forever as it relates at what cost do you put around individuals' health. But the truth be told, this is going to be a job producer. All those conditions that Commissioner McCabe is going to put into place are going to have to be built. They're going to have to be marshaled. And so this not only is going to be for the betterment of our society and our state, but it's also going to produce jobs and be good for our economy. You know, I'm sure it's obvious to all of you that this is part of a greater conversation about equality as it relates to the criminal justice system, education, health, the cost of, prescription drugs, education. The person sitting behind me somewhere about 20 years ago, I first met him when he was on a hunger strike at the Garden Spires. And I knew he was somebody to believe in. And all of those issues that I just spoke about, Cory Booker is advocating for us on a national level. And it's my hope today, Cory, my prayer, that come January, there's going to be the help down in Washington that's going to allow you to get all these things to the goal line for our great nation. Thank you for what you're doing. And I just, the Lieutenant Governor mentioned it. My middle daughter, who I mentioned is here, had the good fortune of going to Wake Forest University when Maya Angelou was a visiting professor. And Melissa shared with me a quote that I do think is just so apropos. Do the best you can until you know better. And then once you know better, do better. Now, in a few moments, with the stroke of the governor's pen on the wings of all of the advocates, and really with the #1 sponsor and the person who pushed this through, Champion Troy Singleton, New Jersey is about to do better. God bless you all.
Here one more time, Assemblyman John McKeon. You took us to church there, John. Senator Booker, God bless you and thank you for everything. We'll keep a pen for you. I know you got to roll. So with that, I want to thank Senator Booker, Senator Singleton, Assemblyman McKeon, Mayor Roz Baraka. Thank you so much for hosting us so graciously. Sheila, as always, bless you. Kim, Maria, Melissa, thank you for your advocacy. Let's get this thing done. Everybody okay back there?
Yeah, we're good.
Okay.
At the moment.
First up, he's our host today, the one, the only, the extraordinary Mayor Roz J. Baraka.
Hello.